From the crossroads of the Ozarks, it's P.I.D. Radio. Welcome. I'm Derek Gilbert.
I'm Sharon Gilbert, and welcome to our barn. Thanks to you, the barn is a lovely place to spend some time.
It really is. We added just a nice little touch. We we had a storm door installed, which was really helpful because when you don't have a storm door around a wood frame that surrounds the door, it can tend to take water damage, and that's what had happened. So anyway, but it's a full glass storm door, so
with a built-in screen.
Yeah. So Grace loves it because she can now sit on the carpet there and just kind of stare out there and wait for her mortal enemy, the Amazon delivery driver. He'll never sneak up on us again.
Or the UPS guy that pulls into the firehouse.
Yeah. Or the FedEx or the mailman. Anyone who's delivering anything to the house here.
This morning, she and Glory went after an 18-wheeler that dared to go past our house at 5:30 in the morning.
But anyway, having that storm door there allows us to leave the inside door open, lets in a lot more light. And again, it makes it more tolerable for Grace when she comes out here to work.
Oh, we love being out here. By the way, if you are one of the many people, and we want to thank you because we've shipped over 1,000 packages from our Gilbert House store. Over 1,000. It's like 1,011 now or something.
Wow.
Turned it
Praise
up
the Lord.
to 1,011.
Yeah. I'm astonished because although people have become comfortable with ordering online, there are certain retailers that you develop a sense of trust. When I order it, they're going to ship it and it'll get here. We had no track record, so we thank you for entrusting us to actually get the packages to the post office and out.
And I have to tell you, we are still learning how to do all of these things, what kind of boxes we need to keep on hand, how to properly apply the tape. I mean, there's so many things I'm still learning how to do. So if you get a box and it's like covered in tape, that's probably because I was afraid the books would fall out.
Documentation needed when you ship overseas.
Yeah, we had to learn about that. That really freaked me out the first few times I had to do it. But now it's documents. I'm more comfortable with it. But anyway, thank you for doing that. But the reason I bring this up is not only to thank all of you for ordering from us, but also a couple of things. One, in the end of March 31 is the last day to get DVDs for 75% off. Reminder, March 31, that's the last day. So April 1st, they go back up to the regular price. However, in April and May, we're going to have 40% off all our books. Yeah. Every book.
Right. So take advantage of that. Get ready for your summer reading. That's fiction, nonfiction, anything that we've got in the printed word, we will knock 40% off.
And if we are getting low on the stock or we run out, we'll do our best to replace it. So you can also pre-order in there. We also, and I bring this up, the second thing, brain, coffee. I left my coffee inside.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. The other thing I wanted to bring up is that probably over the next, say, 4 or 5 days, Derek and I, if the weather cooperates, will be moving the shipping office from our back teeny bedroom, teeny bedroom, it's almost a big closet, into the barn. It's a bigger area, and it's an area that we're not using right now. So to put it to good use, we're going to put the shipping area over there because we want to use every square foot of the barn. Right.
Yeah, that corner's sort of becoming a catch-all, and that's my fault. But
or a catch-out.
Yeah. What little desk type stuff I've been doing over there, I can move back into the back corner. We can move that filing cabinet. And
you can keep it there, whatever. But we're going to be doing that. So why I'm saying this is because we won't be shipping during that moving period. We can't.
Right, because things will be in transit. But we'll have a notice on the store when you go to the store, advising you when those dates are. So
yep. So if you've got an order in there now, please be patient with us, and we will get that out just as soon as we can. Maybe Wednesday, Thursday of next week by the time I get everything set up again, but we'll do our best. And one other announcement is something that Derek and I were discussing this morning because the Lord's kind of laid it on my heart to open my heart to all of you. And I was thinking about this morning because we've got so many friends in ministry. Just wonderful, wonderful couples who are in ministry together. And nearly every one of those couples, it's a supportive role played by the spouse.
Correct.
And because of that, it allows that ministering, the direct ministry couple, the direct ministry person And I'm saying this because I've got some friends, and many of you do too, where it's the woman who writes the books or gives the presentations or whatever, and the man is there to help. So it's a little easier for the direct ministry person to do his or her job because there's support there.
Right.
Derek and I both are in direct ministry.
Mm-hmm.
We both support each other. And so I understand what it's like to feel like, as a woman, we just had International Women's Day, as a woman, I'm supposed to do everything. I'm supposed to do it all. And as a Christian woman, I'm supposed to constantly smile and be happy about it.
Yeah.
And I have joy that never goes away. That joy is always there. But it doesn't mean that that moment of time that I'm 100% happy with my lot. I have days where for about 20 seconds, I want to throw something at the wall, or I just want to go scream. But then it goes away because the Lord's Holy Spirit comes in. But anyway, what I'm saying is that I talked to Derek, and he said he would help me with this.
Absolutely.
I would like to have just a very short program that I produce once a week to start, and we'll see if it can go more often than that. But it'll be just me. And that may even be the program. Just me and the Lord. Just me and you. Whatever it is. Because it will be just my heart telling you that I understand. I get it. That all of you have days where you feel like you want to throw something at the wall or you want to scream.
Yeah. And both of us are getting to an age where in years gone by, we would be retired and moving to Florida and playing golf or something.
But that's not our plan. We're going to work until the last breath.
Right, exactly. But we find that as we're getting a little older, the I wouldn't say cognitive challenges, maybe the memory from time to time isn't what it used to be.
What?
It's a little more difficult staying awake than it used to be.
Difficult getting to sleep or getting a good night's sleep, especially when you've got a puppy in the house.
Well, true, yeah. So there are things that we have to make allowances for. When I joke about this, I could never understand as a kid growing up why my dad would take Saturday afternoons and just nap on the couch with the Cubs game playing in the background. And now I get it.
Me too. I've never been a napper though.
But as you say, the sleep thing. Well, it happened to me this morning. Woke up at 3 a.m. It's like wide awake. Okay, well, let me see if I can do some research while so we have to account for those things and accommodate those things. But as you say, for a woman in particular, especially Christian women and one who holds to a biblical worldview, we understand there are differences in the roles between men and women. And so you're fulfilling all of those roles amazingly.
Oh, thank you. And because you're the best husband on the planet as far as I'm concerned. And I just want to support you. And if I didn't write books and I weren't doing any television or podcasts, I would love that. Because I truly do love being a wife.
And I love being your husband. And
let's have a kiss fest.
And the audience
throws up.
Wretch, yeah. But
she looked over here.
Yeah. What's going on over there? What are they doing? So, but I get it because you're tackling both, and that is something that I think a lot of young women today are discovering, which is the product of the feminist movement, really of the 60s and 70s. That this false notion that you can have a career, you can have it all, you can go out and be a successful, independent woman. You don't need men. It was the Gloria Steinem's favorite statement: "A woman needs a man like a fish needs a bicycle." And
don't get me started on Steinem.
Yeah.
There are a lot of things that I've learned about Gloria Steinem that no.
I know you told me something the other day that startled me.
Well, I know. Yeah. Supposedly she was financed early on that the publication that she was part of, Ramparts, that it was CIA funded.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, we'll talk more about
I can't guarantee that. I'm just telling you that John Lofton, who's a writer that you and I both respect, back in the late 70s, early 80s, wrote a piece about that.
Yeah. Anyway, the goal was to split the family, divide the family, and also
place women in shackles, to be honest with you, but also
really
to serve this goddess who is in charge of the world.
Yeah.
Does Steinem know that? Probably not.
Probably not. But it is a. You're very right. Just like the sexual revolution has also enchained women. You know, hey, we're free. We can do whatever we want. It's my body. Leave it alone. And really, what it's done is it's freed up men from any responsibility. It's like, oh, you got a kid? Well, here, just here's some money. Go take care of it.
And the hilarious thing is the whole transgender thing. I'm going to get us canceled. Has actually perpetuated the male-dominated society.
Right. There was a story that came out this past week that I pointed to on 5 and 10 for Skywatch TV because it's actually there were a couple this past week. It's like the patriarchy is the only winner here. There was a Division III track event in New York State where the winner of the 200-meter dash, setting a new record, was a young white male. The fastest female in the race was a young black woman. So here you got a white guy taking away the first place gold medal from a black woman. And to progressives, this is a good thing. Stunning, brave. Like, oh my goodness. It's called gaslighting. And I'll tell you what, you and I were laughing before we started this, that the whole idea of gaslighting, whose gas are they lighting? Swamp gas.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, shouldn't we worry about that? I mean, the planet, for goodness sake, the planet.
Oh, won't somebody think of the planet? Well, a couple of things we want to get to today. Actually, 3 things I've got noted. I think we can cover, and a lizard. One being the swamp, the other being the octopus, and the third being the AI apocalypse.
Boy, there's your book title.
Yeah.
The swamp, the octopus, and the AI apocalypse. It's the AI.
They all walk into a bar.
Oh, gosh.
State of the Disunion address on Thursday night.
Oh, my goodness.
Biden wasn't he the candidate? He was supposed to unify us and bring us all together after 4 years of mean tweets.
We did bring you together, right? All of the people that vote for me are together. He says.
Yeah, it was, boy, that was a very, very, that was probably one of the angriest State of the Union addresses I have ever seen.
I know. It was essentially one very long campaign speech.
It was. Speaking generally now, and this goes back to even the Bill Clinton State of the Union addresses. You remember the one after Monica Lewinsky came out and we were just sitting there every time he'd say something, we cha-ching. Because
it was money. We're
going to do this, or we're going to do that. Spend money.
Mm-hmm.
The State of the Union, if it ever served a real purpose, is long overdue to just be junked. I mean, the Constitution doesn't require the president to do it. He just says, once a year he delivers to Congress a report.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's become, as you say, it's a campaign event for whoever is in the White House, and it's become such theater and clumsy theater at that. And
it's
joining us today,
parody of itself.
It has. And here with us tonight is this person who did this thing that we want to honor today. Mm-hmm. And the new Prime Minister of Sweden, who's part of NATO, is here. And this other person is here.
And I would love to introduce the wife of Zelensky, but she declined my invitation.
Yeah, as did the parents of Laken Riley.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then he called her Lincoln.
Yeah. And then admitted that it was an illegal migrant who killed her.
It threw him off script.
It did.
So thank you, Marjorie Green Taylor.
Yeah, Taylor Green.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
She should just change her name.
Yeah. The notorious MTG. Yeah. So she, credit to her
it's
for
a great
bringing.
Rapper name.
Yeah, it is. Credit to her for getting her name in front of the public. If you've not heard that story, it's really tragic. Young woman who was killed allegedly by somebody who's not supposed to be in the country, which is an inconvenient fact that the Democrats would like us to forget.
And I just want to say, you said allegedly because it has not gone to a court of law.
That is correct.
We don't have
right.
it. Yep.
But it is a truth that while President Biden was blaming Republicans for the border crisis. Send me a border bill. Wait a minute. We're not so old that we've forgotten how your DHS Secretary, Alejandro Mayorkas, bragged about the 50 executive orders you issued the first week of your presidency, Mr. Biden.
Yes, you can issue another one.
Dismantling everything that Trump had done at the border.
How about remantling them?
Yeah, just issue more executive orders. You could. No. My hands are tied.
I'm pretty sure I can't do that.
Really? Yeah.
Gosh, if there were another thing you wanted to do, you just
do it. Yeah, like student loan cancellation, even though the Supreme Court says you can't do it. And
bragging about having done it. Yes,
right,
I know.
Right.
Well, there are a number of sites that you can go to that take a look at the fact checking. So if you want to know more about the State of the Union speech and whether or not those things are accurate, he said that the economy has been its worst in 100 years.
When he took office.
It was at its worst in 100 years. No.
Remember the song from 1932, Brother, Can You Spare a Dime?
Yeah, remember that crash after the whole apocalyptic Spanish flu, where as much as 5% of the world died?
Mm-hmm.
And because
even in the 1980s, where you had interest rates on loans at 19%?
Gosh, no, they were in the low 20s.
Low 20s.
That was farm loans.
Killing farmers. Right.
Yes, that's why you had Farm Aid came along.
Right,
because, his claim that it was the worst. No, if you take a look, you can see in 2022 that there was a massive rise in food prices, 10.4%.
Yeah. Victor Davis Hanson, who is a historian. In fact, he wrote the foreword for one of Raymond Ibrahim's books.
Oh.
Yeah. He is, I think I got it right. I think it's Victor Davis Hanson. I know the initials are right.
Or Hanson Davis.
Victor Davis Hanson, not David. Victor Davis Hanson. He wrote a response to the State of the Union on X, formerly Twitter, and pointed out that inflation is up 17% since Biden took office. Prices of the stuff of life, staple foods, fuel, appliances, care, shelter, mortgages, etc., up 30% since Biden took office. So when he says inflation is coming down, it doesn't mean prices are coming down. It means the rate at which they're going up is slowing down.
And he even discussed shrinkflation.
Yes.
Which is it's a real thing. Essentially, your Mars bar now may cost the same or slightly more, and they're bragging about, hey, we're keeping prices low. But it's half the size it used to be.
Yeah, that is a real thing, but it's not because greedy corporations are trying to squeeze more profit out of the same thing. It's because they're trying to keep prices where people will still buy their product.
That's exactly
and this is how they're doing it.
That is exactly it. Because the price of coffee's gone up.
Yep.
The price of chocolate has gone up a lot. These things are generally imported. We don't necessarily grow. I don't know anywhere that grows coffee here in the U.S.
Not in the U.S., no.
And I'm not sure that there's any cacao orchards here in the U.S.
Don't think so. Inflation is not calculated the way it used to be. There's a good website that we look at from time to time just to fact check the economic numbers. It's called Shadow Stats, shadowstats.com.
Do you have to subscribe to that to get the...
No, you can look at the numbers, but if you want to get his detailed analysis, then you do subscribe. John Williams is the guy who runs the website, but he calculates things like inflation and unemployment based on the way things were calculated prior to the way they were jiggered in the 80s and 90s. So once during the George H.W. Bush administration, then again during the Clinton administration, they changed the way those numbers were calculated. So inflation, while they're telling us the annual inflation rate is now at 3%, really, if we were still figuring it the way we did back in 1980, it would be 13%, not 3, 13.
I think 13 might even be low.
Well, it's
quite high. Those of you who shop.
Mm-hmm. It's come down in recent months, but it was as high as 18%, according to Shadow Stats in late 2022. So, but the fact is, 13%, things are still increasing. It's just the rate at which they're increasing has slowed somewhat over the last 6 months or so. The unemployment rate, they're telling us record low unemployment. It's as low as it's ever been. There's an unemployment rate 3.4 or 4%. If we calculated it the way it used to be calculated and include the so-called discouraged workers, people have been looking for a year and then gave up, they would rather be employed or they're only working part-time but want full-time employment. If we calculated it the old way, unemployment is actually about 25%.
Well, let me tell you a way you can make some money. Those of you who are looking for how can I make money? Well, those people living in Denver, you've got an opportunity.
Oh?
Oh, yeah. I've got a screen cap of the first part of a letter that went out to those who owned rental properties in Denver County, Denver City.
Mm-hmm.
Let me read it to you. Dated March 5 of 2024. Dear stakeholders in our local residential rental property industry,
Mm-hmm.
you are receiving this email because you have an active or pending residential rental property license with the City and County of Denver. The City and County of Denver has long prided itself on being a welcoming city, coming together and supporting one another in times of crises, and supporting each other as much as needed.
Why do I feel like there's a but coming?
With almost 40,000 migrants arriving in the Mile High City since 2022, the city's ongoing efforts include working closely with the community to find solutions that would more efficiently and effectively support our newcomers.
Oh, I see. That's the new euphemism for illegal aliens.
It is indeed. To this end, we are working to assess how many licensed rental property owners and those with pending applications are interested in assisting the city in connecting newcomers with stable housing. So, hey, if you own property in the county or city of Denver.
Yeah. Contact the city or county, and they'll be happy to hook you up with a...
If it's anything like what's going on in England, millions every day are paid to rental properties.
Yeah, we saw that in New York City with veterans who were being housed in hotels, being paid for by a charity, were booted out because the city and the county over there were willing to pay more to bring to lease out those rooms to newcomers.
Well, that's the thing about this. I'm sure that Denver has a large homeless population.
Probably does.
They're not asking these stakeholders to help welcome the homeless into their rental properties.
Yeah.
Just welcome a total stranger who has no business being in this country.
Mm-hmm. And since they're not going to be paying for the house in which they're in, presumably, this is going to be paid for by the city or the county.
Oh, yes, I'm sure it will be.
They have no skin in the game, so if they tear up the house, no skin off their nose.
Mm-hmm.
Sadly, and I know that's an overgeneralization. And
because not all of them are young, fit, military age.
Yeah, just most of them.
Most of them.
Yeah. All of us of European descent arrived as immigrants. Our ancestors arrived as immigrants to these shores. Having said that, it is just a basic human nature that if you are not responsible for something, you tend not to treat it as well as if it were your own, or if you were going to be held accountable for its condition when you turned it over to someone else.
Right. And because
that's why you have security deposits when you rent something.
Yes. The individuals who are coming across our border are coming from situations and socioeconomic situations that are entirely different from those who normally live in Denver.
Mm-hmm.
They might roast a pig in the room. They might keep a pig.
Mm-hmm.
They might throw trash out the window. And this isn't to disparage them. This is simply the way things are done from where they live.
Mm-hmm.
They also might make weapons.
Well, yeah. And I know this is a difficult topic to discuss in our society, because the very worst thing you can be accused of is racism. And this
has nothing to do with their race. It had everything to do with how they grow up.
Cultures are different. And the cognitive dissonance here, to which liberals appear to be completely immune, is that on the one hand, if you call these countries that they're trying to get out of dysfunctional, you're accused of being racist or hater or whatever. But at the same time, they will argue that we need to open our arms to them because they're just trying to find a better life. Well, better than what? I mean, if their home country is something that we dare not criticize because it's a wonderful place with a vibrant culture. And so why are they trying to get out of there?
Exactly. And why are you saying that we should help them get out of there?
Yeah. Again, the cognitive dissonance that should exist in the minds of liberals is completely absent.
By the way, speaking of other places where things go on that, that you and I would consider inappropriate, there are so many Christians and young girls especially who are being murdered or kidnapped in Nigeria.
Yeah.
And other places throughout Africa. The Congo has some things going on too. African Park scandal. Prince Harry, why don't you ever address the African Park scandal?
He's on the board of directors for that charity.
He is.
Yeah.
He claimed he was promoted to the board of directors. Well, you were the president. And these things happened while you were the president. Why haven't you said something, and why haven't you stepped down?
Well, again, it's all depends. It depends on where you fall on the victim scale, the victim hierarchy, and Christians who are being victimized in Nigeria are very low on that that scale. It is interesting to note that it appears that transgenders score higher than black women, as evidenced by that college race earlier that I mentioned earlier. Again, the cognitive dissonance there. You rail against the white patriarchy, but then this is okay. Okay.
One of the many stories, and I know those of you who listen to these podcasts may or may not be on X, formerly Twitter. But if you are on there, please follow Derek because he posts a lot of news. I do almost all my news there, but occasionally I'll break it up with something that's really fun to see, like a little video of a cat or a dog or something. But this morning it was, random alpaca that just showed up. But one of the stories that I posted there this morning had to do with a protest in England against a painting of Lord Balfour, who was the one who, I think he was foreign secretary at the time, who was behind the Balfour letter that opened up the Levant, opened up Israel to the homecoming of European Jews. Opened that up in 1917.
Yeah, I saw that. The way they just tore it up and sprayed red on it.
She took a knife to it. Well, the commentator, the woman who was doing the commenting on GB News this morning said, that rucksack, the backpack that she's wearing, that costs £1,000.
About $1,500 US.
Yeah, so or $1,250. I think it's $126 or whatever.
Okay.
But it's not inexpensive. In other words, this is a person who either has money herself or whose family, probably this is what it is, has some money. She dares to go in and do her pro-Palestine stint by destroying a valuable painting of a man who is a hero.
Yeah.
But not in her mind.
Not in her mind.
And I have no idea why on earth she is representing this, because some protesters, I won't say that she is, but some protesters are on the receiving end of some money. There are organizations, several of them, are headquartered here in the U.S., and they have branches throughout the world, and their whole raison d'etre is to create chaos.
Yeah. Yeah, there is, I was thinking about this. This is one of the things that was running through my mind at 3 this morning as I was lying there wide awake. We've talked, in fact, we did a program on this on Unraveling Revelation. Should Christians support Israel? And, Lord Balfour attacked because he's the one who issued the declaration that was used by the Zionist movement of the early 20th century as essentially, we've been given the go signal to return to the land and eventually establish an independent homeland. And yes, we understand that some of the people who were involved in the Zionist movement were not religious Jews, or certainly not, and not Christians. Their aims were more political. Yes, very, very well put. But likewise in history, when Israel was reestablished after the Babylonian captivity, God worked through the polytheist pagan king Cyrus, who incidentally, I know he's really remembered as a hero by the Jewish community, but when you read the ancient Mesopotamian texts, you find that he didn't just send the Jews home, what he was doing was this. The last king of Babylon, Nabonidus, believed that he could protect Babylon from the invading Medes and Persians by bringing the idols and thus bringing the gods of the other cities.
Mm-hmm.
Every city in Mesopotamia had a patron deity. So he brought Shamash from Shurappak.
He brought those representations.
Yeah, he brought Ishtar up from Uruk and so forth and brought them all into Babylon, thinking that he would have all the gods of Mesopotamia protecting Babylon against the Medes and the Persians. But that left those other cities feeling as though they were unprotected. Our God has been taken from us. So Cyrus, being a very smart politician, said he would send all of their gods back to their patron cities. And in his mind, he was just sending Yahweh back to his patron city of his sacred city of Jerusalem.
So he was sponsoring Zionism.
Yeah.
Moses was a Zionist.
Without even realizing it.
Moses was a Zionist.
Moses was a Zionist.
It's just this desire, in its purest form, is the desire to return to your homeland, where Zion, Mount Zion is. That's the Temple Mount.
Yes. And again, my point is that if we apply the same standard to Cyrus that we applied to, say, Lord Balfour, then we can say that the Second Temple period in Israel was not the real Israel.
I know.
And we're we don't do that.
Because we don't like the people that were behind it.
Exactly. I would say this. If the church has truly replaced Israel and the current state of Israel is not the real Israel, why is the God of Islam and his adherents so single-mindedly obsessed with destroying it?
I think that's a great question. And no, the church has not replaced Israel.
I agree.
We are not Israel.
No.
We are the church.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
We are grafted in.
Right. But
we haven't replaced.
The root is still there.
The root is still there, exactly.
And prophecies of Israel's future role in the end times have yet to be fulfilled.
It's pretty obvious. You and I aren't part of a tribe.
No. The 144,000 does not include Japhethites.
No.
Well.
But because you and I are getting sort of adamant about defending Israel because there are more and more people online, people that surprise me that they have started spouting this nonsense.
Right. Yep.
That the church has replaced Israel. Sorry, it has not.
It has not. No. I think that by hunting down conspiracies, and we love us a good conspiracy. We'll talk about one coming after the break here.
Boy, howdy is it.
But in so doing, just be careful that you don't get drawn into an anti-Israel mindset, because regardless of how Israel came to be, and again, just look back at history at how God not only reestablished the Second Temple Israel, but how he used pagans to sometimes correct or chastise Israel when they misbehaved.
Yes.
So God can work through the pagan world. He's done that all throughout history.
All throughout it.
But and so anyway, just be very, very cautious.
Be very
discerning. You're on the right side of history.
Yeah, we've had, I say, we've had quite a number of friends over the last couple of decades that for whatever reason, they start to veer off. And once you wander into those weeds, it's amazing how your thought process can be taken captive by the enemy.
Yeah. Well, conspiracies. There's a new series on Netflix that's gaining some attention, and boy, it's like they watched or listened to old episodes of P.I.D. radio.
I know, I think they did, don't you? Because when I was watching, it's 4 episodes, and while I was watching each one, I kept thinking, we talked about that. We talked about that too. Oh my gosh, we talked about her. Like, we even have a copy of her book. Wait, no.
That's right. We were early on this, and we'll talk more about the octopus straight ahead on P.I.D. Radio. It's a new month, and we have a new special at the Gilbert House online store.
We have a crazy, crazy deal on all of our DVDs. They are, regardless of the retail price, they are 75% off.
We keep hearing from the kids these days that everything is going to streaming video, that DVDs are old school.
Oh, not for us.
No, we are old school. And besides, we don't trust the internet will always be there. So take advantage of this special offer. Everything from our travel documentaries. Basically follow us as we go through the Holy Land and show you the important sites at ground zero on this supernatural war, plus video teachings, presentations, and much, much more.
You know, with 75% off savings on all the DVDs, as many as you want to get, you've got the money that you saved to go out and buy a DVD player.
That's it. Take advantage of it now, online only at the Gilbert House store, gilberthouse.org/store. And thank you for your prayers and support. Welcome back to P.I.D. Radio. I'm Derek Gilbert.
I'm Sharon Gilbert. And Derek and I tell you what, we spend most of our time laughing. And that's why, you know, when I opened and I said there are days I want to scream, those are such rare moments and they're fleeting. So there is joy in my heart at all times. And one of the reasons that I find such joy in life is because we're not alone.
No, that's true.
And I know many of you sitting out there, you are physically alone in your walk. You live alone. You maybe maybe have no church, and you have no family that live nearby, or no family at all, and you do feel alone. Boy, we get that because I've been alone in my life. I've got a big family, but I've lived on my own and been struggling and had no close bonds with people nearby, and so there were times that I would just sit and cry myself to sleep. So I get that, but understand that the Lord loves you so very much. And one of the reasons that I think he started you and me doing these podcasts is because the Lord understands that the internet for now is a wonderful way to connect those of you who are out there and feeling alone with others who perhaps feel alone. Mm-hmm. And because the body of Christ, we're not individual cells living out there all by ourselves. Cells have to cooperate with other cells to form a tissue that forms an organ that has a place. Mm-hmm. We all have a job. And
that's why Paul described the body of Christ as a body and how we each have different functions. Mm-hmm. The hand is not a foot, which is not the brain, which is not the stomach. You know, we've got different gifts and different abilities, different desires, but we all have to work together in order to make the body function.
And so this internet can actually join us together.
Yeah, and we can, in a small way, you can do that through our free app. We've got a conversation area or messaging area there where you can join and discuss with others. There are various groups within that messaging area, one for PID Radio, another for Ask Sharon questions, another Ask Derek questions, prayer requests, which is really active, and much more. So take advantage of that. You can find the link at pidradio.com/app. gilberthouse.org/app. Gilberthouse.org is our main web hub.
And by the way, while you're talking about the app, I don't have this iPad set up with my login. So if you want to go in and if you have it set up there, ask a question. Let's answer one of the questions, and then we'll go to our octopus.
Well, let me see what we got here. Questions for Sharon. Hello, Sharon. Just have you and Derek looked into the Gospel of Thomas? Just wanted your take on it. It has some interesting quotes in it.
Mike Heiser wrote about that.
He did, and I also interviewed Dr. Craig Evans about a couple of things related to the so-called Gnostic Gospels. Mm-hmm. The Gospel of Thomas, if I remember correctly, is a 2nd century or 3rd century. 2nd or 3rd century.
Yeah, isn't Thomas the one that talks about Mary Magdalene being one of the disciples?
I think so. Gospel of Thomas, discovered among the Nag Hammadi texts, in 1945. Probably, let's see, scholars think it was 2nd century, but they say the date of composition could be as late as 250 A.D. There is a reason that is not in the canon of Scripture The earliest surviving reference to it found in the writings of Hippolytus of Rome, who was early 3rd century. Origen of Alexandria, also early 3rd century.
Yeah, if you do a search on whatever search engine you use for Heiser and the Nag Hammadi, and it's spelled Naghammadi, one of the things that came up here, it's actually a video, was Jesus married according to the Gnostic texts from Nag Hammadi. Because he really dug into this stuff, and I know many of you are familiar with Michael Heiser, the late Dr. Michael Heiser, and respect his work. That's why I'm recommending that.
Craig Evans argued that it was representative of 2nd century Egyptian Christianity.
The Coptic?
Yeah. But again, there's a reason that even though it was known to the early church fathers beginning around the 2nd and 3rd centuries AD, there's a reason it's not in the canon of Scripture, and it's because it is not. There are things in it that contradict the synoptic, the Gospels.
Well, when you
Matthew,
start
Mark, Luke, and John.
When you start down that road, you get into Brown.
Dan Brown.
Dan Brown territory,
Right.
because that was one of his points. He apparently buys into or at least for the sake of writing his books, bought into the Gnostic texts that implied or just outright believed, stated that Jesus was married to Mary Magdalene and that they had child or children, and that this bloodline is actually the Holy Grail. The Sangreal. Sangreal.
Yeah. Holy blood, Holy Grail.
Which is just based on that one book.
Right. Yeah. I tried reading Holy Blood, Holy Grail, and it was just like, this is just too hard to read. Couldn't get through it. But Dan Brown essentially fictionalized it to the point where they sued him. So,
yeah.
Let's see. We got another one here very quickly. Do you think that all the bipedal hominids that are our supposed ancestors, that's in quotes, alive from the pit, do you suppose they could be the remains of Nephilim? They weren't all giants, correct? This is from Aaron. Aaron, and I did not respond to that on the app. I will try to do that. But to respond verbally, two things. First of all, yes, some of them, the so-called Neanderthal, might be because they're much more robust.
Denisovans and all that.
Yeah, but they are not giants. The other thing that surprised me, and we talk about this periodically, on December 27th, I remember the date because it was the date of the Boxing Day tsunami. And it was just before we started doing P.I.D. radio. December 26th of 2004, The Telegraph in the UK wrote an article based on the research of a professor, and I'm going to mispronounce his first name. It's Maciej. Message. Anyway, Henneberg is his last name. He's Austrian. Professor Henneberg of the University of Adelaide in Australia had just published a study of the 200 existing skeletons of so-called proto-humans or hominins. I thought there were thousands based on, because we know that we just...
There aren't very many.
There are only 200. And when he analyzed the dimensions, cranial, height, weight, etc., he found that all of these, which were broken into more than 50 different species, from Australopithecus to Homo erectus, he said they're all variants of Homo sapiens. They're all human. And the title of the article is, Believe It or Not, They're All the Same Species.
There was also a study done by a dentist.
Yes, I've got a copy of that book in PDF form.
Yes, he took a look at the skulls and the jawbones, and he made the case, and I think it's a very compelling case, a supportive evidence that the placement of the jawbone against the rest of the skull was improperly done.
Right.
And it made it look like it was more of a simian type skull. And if it were properly placed, it would look very human.
Yeah. Which is consistent with Professor Henneberg's research. Now, Henneberg was careful to say, well, this does not disprove Darwinian evolution, because over time we have still grown and developed and so forth. But his argument was that all of these so-called proto-humans, including the hobbits that were found on the island of Java or whatever. I mean, you look at the variation in existing modern humans. There was a famous Apple commercial some years back when they had launched the new line of MacBooks. You had the MacBook Pro. See, Grace is standing and staring out the window now.
Yeah.
Time for the mailman, perhaps. Anyway, there was the 13-inch MacBook Air, but then they had the 17-inch MacBook Pro, and they had Vern Troyer, who played Mini-Me in the Austin Powers movies. He was Dr. Evil's, henchman, Mini-Me. And then Yao Ming, who was the 7'4" center for the Houston Rockets, I think. Anyway, Chinese basketball player, 7'4", sitting next to each other on an airplane, each with their own, Vern Troyer had the little 13-inch and Yao Ming had the 17-inch. You would look at those guys, because one was like 3'4" and the other guy's 7'4" or something, and think, okay, it's got to be different species. That, I think, is what paleontologists have done with the hominins. Because, hey, he's the one who discovered Homo mediopus or whatever. So anyway, Aaron, good question. Are there
It's
bones?
a great question.
Have we been looking at the bones of the Nephilim all along and just not recognizing them?
I have no idea.
Could be.
But also the ages that are placed on some of these skeletons, it's a ridiculous number.
Yeah.
The skeleton is 400 million years old, or what?
Yeah.
I'm exaggerating. But why shouldn't I? I mean, they exaggerate, so why shouldn't I? But the bottom line is that I, as a biologist, am a firm believer in the biblical timeline, that creation existed. When that happened, I don't know, because I also believe that there's some space between the original creation and the creation of Adam.
Some really interesting research by Barry Setterfield, a physicist who's got some very, very interesting, brilliant man.
Oh, so brilliant.
And we were just honored that he and Lambert Dolphin, it really was an honor for us. It was like a, fangirl moment.
Really
when Lambert
was.
Dolphin reached out to us and put us in contact with Barry Setterfield, because we were aware of both of their work.
I know.
Lambert has since gone home to be with the Lord just a couple of months ago, January 1st of this year.
It's such a shock. But when he reached out, and he's sent us messages since, and every time I hear from him, or heard from him, it was, oh my gosh, this is the guy that we would read his stuff, his brain wrapped around physics in a way that
both Lambert and Barry, and Barry's claim, and I tried to get my head around this for some programs that we did last year for the Before Genesis programs at Skywatch TV, that I'll just condense it in a nutshell. This doesn't do it justice, but the rate at which time advances has slowed. The speed of light has slowed significantly and continues to slow to a small degree, but really in the first few moments after creation, just like when you release a rubber band and that, the snap. So that's way too simplistic, doesn't do the theory justice. But the bottom line is that we could be looking at the age of these bones and saying, can't be 100,000 years. It can only be, 10,000, 6,000, whatever. And he could say, yes, you're both right. Because things may look chronologically 100,000 years, but maybe only 6,000 years in terms of times around the sun.
I get it.
Yeah.
I
So
get
anyway, that was an amazing thing. And so we've got these remnants of the relics of the past. We may be arguing past one another because we and the official narrative, the paleontologists, archaeologists, we're not using the right scale. It's a floor wax and a dessert topping.
I was thinking the very same thing, and I bet many of you were too. Thank you for those questions. Please keep asking those questions, and we'll do our best to answer on the podcasts. Answer a couple of them. We also you teased the octopus. Now what is the octopus?
Well, I'm glad you found this on Netflix.
Me too.
This is a relatively new release. It's a 4-part docuseries called The Octopus Murders. We did digging. We were digging into the octopus back in the late 90s and early 2000s, and then we did a couple of programs on it on P.I.D. radio. I will link to one in the show notes from October of 2009. This was the term, the octopus, given to a conspiracy that an investigative journalist named Danny Casolaro was working into in August of 1991, he was found murdered in a Sheraton hotel room in Martinsburg, West Virginia. His wrists, left and right, were slashed between 10 and 12 times, and very deeply, according to the EMT who found the body.
Cut the tendons.
Cut the tendons.
You can't hold anything if your tendons are cut.
Right.
So if that were the deep cut on the first one, how did you do the second one?
Yeah.
And multiple times. We're talking like 10, 12 times each wrist.
8 times on the left wrist and then 4 times on the right wrist.
Oh, okay.
Is what they said. The octopus
I'm going to
refers
hyperbolize this. It was 1,000,000 times, but it was a lot. And these weren't hesitation marks.
No. And it's really been interesting. I still haven't watched the 4th episode, which you've watched. I started watching it and got about 20 minutes in when Glory peed on the couch today.
We're laughing about that because look,
we weren't laughing at the moment.
No, I was. I said no pretty sharply and put her outside, and then did a lot of cleanup. But that's what you do when you have a puppy in the house.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll watch that 4th episode. It's a well done docuseries, and it's really, really interesting seeing video of these characters that we were reading about 20 and 25 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Danny Casolaro. There's some home video there provided by his brother, Dr. Tony Casolaro.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Riconosciuto was a name that kept coming up in the research, and to actually see him and see interviews with him was really startling. Because these names are almost like, legendaries. You're reading these things, these research reports and documents, and the writing of the investigative journalist Cheri Seymour, who wrote a book. The Last Circle, which has since been published by Trine Day Publishing.
Oh, good for them. They take on some controversial topics.
Right. We have copies of the early unpolished manuscript, which are available online, and I'll link to that if you want to read it. So seeing the docuseries put pieces together and then put faces to these names was really, really interesting. It was also good to see that when we summarized it in our program back in October of 2009, had the bones of the story correct. In fact, one of the researchers whose work in this, especially regarding what was going on at the Indio, California, the Cabazon Indian Reservation, we had that correct. Virginia McCullough was an investigative journalist in California who was documenting all this. I think she has since passed.
Yeah, we had a lot of her essays, I think.
Yeah.
Her reports.
She had a website where she collected a lot of that stuff. And she actually reached out to us after that program back in 2009 and complimented us and said it was one of the most concise and well-organized summaries of the octopus case that she had heard. So that was... considering we regarded her highly and her writing highly.
All of those are in the archives at the app.
Yeah. But again, I'll link to the notes, or in the show notes. I'll link to the program so you can go back and listen to it without having to dig too far. The bottom line is this: what Casolaro found, and I had not realized, by the way, until watching the Netflix series, that he called it the octopus because of the 8 men behind it. I didn't realize that.
Neither did I until I watched it. I just thought he must have seen that there was a sort of a head man or head organization,
and then
tentacles coming out.
Yeah.
But and the number of men or individuals that he listed, that number changed, and finally he decided it was 8.
Yeah, and hence the octopus. And among those were names like E. Howard Hunt.
Yes.
Who was the inspiration for Chris Carter and his cigarette-smoking man in the X-Files.
To his son on his deathbed, I think, that he had been the shooter on the grassy knoll.
Yep. George H.W. Bush, former President Bush, who was also head of the CIA. And a number of other lesser-known names, but there were 8 of them together who emerged from the OSS after World War II and got involved in a wide range of activities. For example, the Iran-Contra scandal, which involved, oh my goodness, selling.
It was like a triangle sales network that was guns and drugs and money to send over to Iran.
Yeah, and funding and sending weapons to the Contras in Nicaragua, and a lot of this being funded by illicit drug sales. There was a reporter who is alleged to have exited this mortal coil not of his own choice after disclosing the CIA's role in introducing crack into the United States.
Yeah, there are certain words that the algorithm doesn't like, and the word that you're substituting not of his own choice. That is.
And it sadly, it's gutted the African American communities in a lot of our major cities. Gary Webb was the name of the fellow.
What's gutted it?
The flood of cheap drugs like crack cocaine.
Oh, absolutely. And it continues now. And in fact, that was one of the things in Biden's speech. I'm going to crack down on fentanyl getting into this country.
Yeah.
How about stopping people at the border? That would really stop that traffic.
It certainly would. Yeah. Gary Webb died in 2004. So, and again, just to put a timestamp on Danny Casolaro, his death, August of 1991. But again, they were alike in that they were exposing government activities that in very dark things.
I remember we talked about Barry Seal as well. Remember him?
Yeah. Pilot worked out of the Mena, Arkansas airport.
Yeah.
But yeah, Casolaro, boy, what they were doing at the Cabazon Indian Reservation in Indio, California. I didn't realize that the Cabazon band of the Mission Indians was only 26 members at the time that
Tiny,
John Philip Nichols, who was ostensibly, apparently was an intelligence asset of some sort.
Well, he claimed to be.
Yeah, had set up shop there because being relatively autonomous, you could get away with things there.
A sovereign nation.
You get away with doing things there. And they were making weapons. They were, in fact, working on plans to develop biological weapons.
Well, I think the very first Indian casino was there.
Yeah. And when
quote unquote casino,
when the head of security for the tribe, a fellow named Fred Alvarez, started asking questions and finding evidence of some of this weapons dealing,
malfeasance.
Yeah, weapons dealing. He was found dead with two friends in the backyard of his home, shot in the head with a .357 Magnum. So there was a lot going on connected to this, and it was interesting seeing these dots connected in the documentary. But again, you said at the end of the fourth episode, they tried to...
They pull a Chris Carter, and there's a retcon. So I won't tell you more than that. Spoilers ahead. I encourage you to watch all four of them.
Yeah.
And then at the very end, you go, what?
Yeah. This is really, there's so many connections here. Promise Software, which was the...
PROMIS.
Right, which is the case management software developed by a company called Inslaw, was stolen from Inslaw by the Justice Department under Edwin Meese and given to a fellow who, given to a company called Hadron, as in Large
Collider.
Hadron Collider, yeah, run by a guy named, now I'm forgetting his name. Anyway, he was connected to the Reagan administration. He was in the cabinet for Reagan when he was governor of California. He was guy ran Hadron.
The only reason that Inslaw found out that their software had been stolen was because the French government contacted them.
A Canadian government. Because they needed a translation
into French.
Into French.
Yep.
So it was a kind of an oops moment because suddenly the
what do you mean? We've never sold you our software.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Apparently, the guy who headed up Hadron had gone to Iran to set up the October surprise, which is don't release the hostages from the U.S. Embassy in Tehran until after the election. Of course, Jimmy Carter was trounced in the election by Reagan. A big reason a lot of people voted for Reagan is because they thought Carter was weak. He couldn't get the hostages back. So
we'd had over a year's worth of Ted Koppel saying, and this is the 374th day of the...
Right. So Reagan wins the election, and the next day, the hostages are on a plane coming home.
Yeah.
And the guy at Hadron, his payment was this Promise software. But then they took it a step further, and according to the story, Michael Riconosciuto, this genius, was able to install backdoors in the software. And then the U.S. government started selling it to our allies, our friends, enemies. And because there was a backdoor in it, the NSA was able to start looking at who they were using the software to track and follow.
Oh, exactly. And we highly encourage you not only to watch this series, if you want to listen to the P.I.D. radios, that's great, but also Cheri Seymour's Last Circle. It contains a lot of information that is not in this series.
Yeah.
It connects to a lot of other things. So please read that.
Earl Bryan, that was the name of the guy who headed up Hadron. Yeah, he was, according to Riconosciuto, spoke Farsi, and so he was able to negotiate the deal on behalf of the Reagan administration. Whether Reagan himself knew about it or not, don't know, but anyway, it was seemingly effective, hence the October surprise.
We are running out of time.
We are. Do want to, gosh, it was one of the things.
We were going to do the post-apocalypse or something like that. Let's do that next week. We'll talk about apocalyptic things. Next week, maybe talk some more about the
artificial intelligence wanting to take over the world, demanding worship.
Well, we'll definitely have to talk about that next week because that's a big topic. That
is a big topic.
AI would be very upset if we just sort of, throw them. Oh yeah, and then there's this. Bye.
Yeah. Didn't give it its proper due.
Yeah. Come on.
You're disrespecting me. Yeah. We got a couple things to tell you about. A couple of new conferences. New conferences.
Yes.
We're going to be
very excited about
Cincinnati. We will be there in early June, first weekend in June. In fact, I had the website. Here we go. Mysteries of the Bible Verse. What a great name for a conference.
I know. I'm so excited about that.
Mysteries of the Bible Verse. This is Southwest Radio Ministries. Larry Spargimino and our friends over there. This will be June. What are the dates here? June 7th and 8th. This will be at the Marriott at the airport, which is it's in
in Kentucky.
Hebron. Hebron, Kentucky, which is where the Cincinnati airport's located. Registration $50, but a VIP ticket is $100, which gets you access to the VIP Q&A, meet and greet, one-on-one with the speakers, and a Southwest Radio Ministries T-shirt, plus a special gift.
That's worth it.
Anyway, we'll have a link in the at our website, gilberthouse.org, where we've got our calendar of upcoming events, but also in our app. Go under the calendar tab there, and you'll find that. But man, the poster for this is.
I haven't seen the poster yet.
Oh
my goodness! Yes.
Yeah.
That is awesome. Yes.
It looks like the title page for a comic or a graphic novel, but when you see the Bible for what it is, I mean, really. Seriously.
Lord
of the Rings on steroids.
Yes, it is. No, that is incredible. I can't wait for that. And I have family that live nearby, so we're going to get to see them too.
Subtitle of the conference: the topics your Sunday school teacher didn't talk about. So we're very excited to be about that. Giants in Scripture, UFOs. What is the Council of Elohim? Yeah, things like that. Did the angels rule the nations after the Tower of Babel? What is the flying machine described by Ezekiel?
Boy, that's right in our wheelhouse, isn't it?
It is, yes.
Boy,
so we are honored to be a part of that. And then first weekend in September, going back to North Dakota for the Pitchfork and Hoe Gathering.
Sweet.
Yeah, that'll be in Valley City, North Dakota.
Jelly, jam.
Oh, man, yeah. Choke cherry.
Yeah.
We don't have choke cherries down here in the Ozarks.
We don't.
My grandmother in North Dakota used to make choke cherry jelly.
I know. It's just the best ever.
Yeah.
Best ever, especially on homemade bread. By the way, we want to remind you, too, that March 31 is, in our way of keeping track, we really need to know if you want to go to Israel with us in the first part of May, because we need to give them numbers.
Right.
They need to know how many people are going in order to reserve hotel rooms.
Yeah. This is our solidarity mission to Israel, May 6th through 13th, going to Tel Aviv, Hostage Square. There's an exhibition there based on the Nova Music Festival. We'll visit the areas in the south, a couple that were attacked, including the town of Sderot. We'll have a barbecue with IDF soldiers. We'll go to sites in Jerusalem that you want to see.
Staying in Jerusalem, we're going to get to see lots of things there. So This is a rare opportunity, and it's a chance to go over and be a witness yourself to exactly what's going on in Israel, and also to tell the rest of the world that most of Israel is very quiet.
Yeah. Yes, things are still kinetic in the south, and the areas in the north along the border with Lebanon still officially evacuated. But in the center of the country, especially Judea and Samaria, those areas are very quiet.
Yeah,
so,
very much so. So
anyway,
it's going to be fine.
More information at gilberthouse.org/travel. And there's a link there to take you to the Lipkin Tours website.
Yep. And one more reminder, if you are placing orders at the Gilbert House store, we love that. Just remember that probably won't be shipping anything until late next week because we're moving the store.
Yeah. So give us a little time to get all the boxes and things moved and set up in here. And in the meanwhile, say tomorrow, Gilbert House Fellowship, our Bible study tomorrow morning. And tomorrow evening, the guest on A View from the Bunker is Ali Siadatan.
Ooh,
yeah, always a good guest. And we'll be talking about, end times Bible prophecy. So until next time, I'm Derek Gilbert.
I'm Sharon Gilbert, and for Grace Gilbert, who's here in the barn with us, and Glory, who's whining in the house. Bye-bye, everybody.
P.I.D. Radio is produced by Gilbert House and released under Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives 4.0 International License. Follow us online, Twitter @P.I.D. Radio, or the P.I.D. Radio page at Facebook. Join us each week for our online Bible study, the Gilbert House Fellowship, online at gilberthouse.org.